You saw the title and you saw the thumbnail. These videos are no joke. Make sure you stick to the end because it gets wild. With that being said, let's get into it.
This is probably the most corrupt thing to happen in this presidency, and a lot of people don't know about it. So Donald Trump is currently in the process of suing the American taxpayers for $10 billion. Donald Trump is very unique as a U.S. president because he, unlike a lot of his predecessors, has not released his tax information. Usually, if you're just running for office, you release your tax information just so you can publicly prove to people that you can manage money in a way that's legal. But this is really more of like a gentleman's agreement. You're not required to do that to run for office in America. And Trump has chosen not to do that both times that he's run. There's a lot of reasons why that could be the case. I mean, he is a convicted felon for mortgage fraud. So he has been proven to fudge the numbers in a way that is against the law. But, I mean, there was just such an interest in it that eventually Trump's tax information did release, right? And he's arguing that he should be paid $10 billion for that. The Trump tax information was actually leaked by a government contractor, and that guy actually got 5 years in prison for leaking Trump stuff. Personally, I'm of the belief that that shouldn't be illegal. I mean, you're the president of the United States. We should know who you owe money to. But regardless, that guy that did it was an independent government contractor, a single actor that was put in jail for what he did, right? But Donald Trump is arguing that the Department of Justice, which is the arm of the United States that prosecutes crimes, should have prevented him somehow from being able to leak this information in the first place. And again, Donald Trump wants $10 billion for that. Now, the government's money is the money that we pay. So when you paid your taxes, right? I haven't gotten to it. But when you paid your taxes, you are paying directly into the United States government, right? So if he is successful and wins this $10 billion, that is out of your pocket, essentially. It gets even crazier when you understand that the Department of Justice is the arm that settles these disputes, right? So he's suing the government that he's the president of, but because he's a president, he put the people in charge that would settle the lawsuit in court. So that means that he has basically hired his own judge, essentially, in this matter. And maybe it makes you feel better, but, oh, you know, I'm not going to ask for the whole $10 billion. We'll just settle it out of court, right? So he can basically write himself a blank check for however much money he wants. That's stealing, yo. It's stealing. And it's crazy because there's so much other stuff going on where it's like hard to even keep track of that. But that's like blatant corruption. I'm blatantly happy that you watched the video all the way through. So please like, share, and follow. Making videos for you guys is my full-time job. Or if you want to support me, you can also do that by listening to my music, my new single, Miss Your Body, all platforms.
No, sorry. I actually can't attend any
here?
sleepovers at your house. This house has actually been off the market for quite some time, but the
3-bed,
listing is still up on Zillow. I blurred the address for the new homeowner's privacy, but it's in Oklahoma, and it was sold in 2023 for $270,000.
Not bad.
From the outside, it looks like a typical old suburban American home. They've got some retro yellow carpet on the inside, a cute little granny kitchen, and even an adorable pink toilet and sink, which is interesting considering that the listing description says that the home doesn't have any plumbing. They also have this all pink room and an all blue room. Then there's an alternative bedroom in the attic space, but it looks like they just used it for storage. Heading back down the yellow brick road, you get another view of the living room. And then we're back outside. But where are all of the dolls, you may be asking? Well, this property has not just one house, but 2 houses. I don't know what's in here, but after seeing the second home on the property, I'm not sure I'm curious enough to find out. Here's the house in question. It has a bedroom inside, and a workshop, and a red carpeted room that can fit lots of little guests in it. But there's also a room specifically for displaying all of these little dolls. Hope you don't mind the company.
I would never. If I knew that was there, I wouldn't buy that house.
Michael Jackson's sister says that he knew they were coming after him.
First of all, he told me over and over and over.
Damn,
when he
they look
first told
alike.
me, Latoya, they're going to kill me. I said, who, Michael? First, I thought you were Michael Jackson. Nobody in their right mind would ever think of doing anything like this to you. That's what you think. He says, no, but you don't understand. And then I saw how serious he was. He said, it's bigger than what you think. I said, well, Michael, what is it? He said, it's my publishing. They're after my publishing. They want to take it. As you guys know, my brother had one of the largest catalogs in the world, meaning music-wise.
The Beatles collection was one of them.
He owned the Beatles, yes.
Yeah.
stairs and elevator music that you hear, just everything, basically a piece of every artist.
I'm really intrigued because you say that there was somebody at this house and you know who it was. Can you say who it was?
No, I cannot say because there were other people in the house as well. Because I prefer not to at the moment, but I will say this. I would love to have a one-on-one with several people. One person I would love to have. Safe? I would love to have a one-on-one with probably, I mean, I don't know.
Weird.
That's crazy. They look alike, a lot alike.
Well, this woman's a witch, but she decides to do a little experiment. She says, you know what? I'll give Jesus a try just for 1 minute. Let's see what happens. Take a look.
Because I knew, she kept telling me you can't do both. You can't do witchcraft and be with Jesus. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do a little test. I'll just put it down for a minute and I'll try it out and it's going to be wrong was essentially what I thought. So I tried it out and I just experienced such a sense of peace and love, unconditional love that I had never felt in my whole life. I can't even explain it. When I was in New Age, it didn't feel as personal as it does to Jesus. It just didn't. Nothing did.
If you asked a bunch of Christians how they feel when they find Jesus, that's the exact same thing they'll tell you. That's what I'll tell you. Peace. Unexplainable peace. That's Jesus. He is unconditional. Nothing is more powerful than the presence of Jesus. Nothing. Satan, you lost again, bro.
This image depicts Adam and Eve at the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I mean, look at this tree. This is clearly a mushroom with mushrooms growing out of it, and they are covering themselves with mushroom caps. Now, in a lot of these ancient cultures across Mexico, Guatemala, like the Mayans, the indigenous people of America, they saw the mushroom as a spiritual entity, something that enhanced your consciousness and brought you closer to the Creator. And that is why they depicted it in all of these ancient paintings and depictions. I mean, from the stained glass to the trees that are literally mushrooms and mushrooms growing out of the ground. Look at these pictures. I mean, they even put white Jesus handing out mushrooms. They have Jesus with the old halo and mushrooms underneath of him. All through Mexico and Guatemala, they had these mushroom stones. These stones signified the bridging from the spiritual world to the external world. All throughout the Americas, mushrooms has had a significant meaning. In all of these ancient cultures, they saw mushrooms as a good thing. Now let's bring this into the Bible. In the beginning of the Bible, it talks about the forbidden fruit and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay, here's Genesis 3. But God did say, you must not eat the fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die. You will certainly not die. For the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you will eat it, from it your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So the serpent said, for when you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will know good from evil. You will be like God. Now, I want you to know the serpent from the tree of life. By the way, the tree of life is within you, as within, so without. Your spine signifies the tree of life. There is such thing called the Kundalini energy, the serpent energy. The forbidden fruit is psychedelic mushrooms. That is what they are talking about. The mushrooms were seen as something sacred, something that brought you closer to the Creator. And if you've tried mushrooms, you know this. It removes the veil over your eyes. You do see good from evil. And a lot of these shamans and spiritual teachers in ancient times wore the turban or the headdress because it signified higher consciousness. It was supposed to look like a mushroom cap. These indigenous spiritual teachers knew the power of mushrooms. They knew the power of this fruit. In ancient Egypt, the white crown was meant to depict the mushroom cap because they saw this as the flesh of gods. Because when it rains, the seed, the mushrooms grew. The most intelligent organism on this planet, the psychedelic mushroom. Mushrooms have always had a sacred place with the indigenous people of Eagle Land. If you found any of this insightful, follow for more. Love you guys.
Eagle Land.
Which timeline do you think that we are on? Listen to me. The Hopi people carved Prophecy Rock thousands of years ago. It's located in Arizona and one of the oldest continuously inhabited areas in North America. It gives you two different paths, two different futures, right? And they say, the elders say, that the sign that we've chosen the wrong path will appear in the sky. Have you noticed more meteors recently? I'm just saying, let's keep talking about the Hopi though. As you can see, there's two different timelines. The top one is broken, jagged. Nothing survives on the top timeline, but on the bottom one, everything is plentiful. We know that because there's corn and there's people. And on the top timeline, as you can see, the people's head is separated from their body. And the Hopi elders say that this is going to be a time when people forget themselves. They forget their spirit. They forget their soul. Anyways, the bottom timeline is what will lead us into the fifth world, but as you can see, there is a man in the middle of the petroglyph with its arms stretched out to the lower timeline. The Hopi identify him as the guardian of this world, the being that gave humanity a choice when we arrived here. Here's what most people miss about the Hopi prophecy. They aren't describing a future choice. No, this timeline is already happening. See those jagged marks on it? Those are world events like world wars or the atomic bomb, things that have already happened, destruction of the natural world, which means that junction may not be ahead of us. It may be behind us. And the Hopi actually went to the UN in 1998 and tried to warn them that, hey, we are on the wrong path. But here's where it gets hard to ignore. This March alone, we have had, I think, 6 meteors already? And the Hopi said that the signs would be in the sky before the day of purification, like the blue star Kachina. I'm not saying that any of those meteors were the blue star Kachina, but what I'm saying is, at what point do we stop calling it coincidence? I'm not trying to scare you in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but the blue star Kachina is not the last sign, all right? It's the red star Kachina. The blue star Kachina actually makes way for the red star Kachina to come in and bring the day of purification, but we can talk about that some other time.
Explains how the Rothschilds are one of the families that control the world.
There's a basic New World Order, an Illuminati, if you will, which is primarily run by the Rothschild family. The Rothschilds financed Stalin and the takeover of Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution, 1917. They have financed the French Revolution. They financed World War II. They financed Hitler, and they were financing the U.S. So they believe in order out of chaos. You fund both sides of a war, and whichever side wins, you got their vote because you're their paymaster. You've given them their money. You control their financial supply, which means you can control government. Okay? And you profit no matter what. Right. And also what happens is that the war stimulates the economy, so you get much more infrastructure and much more buildings coming out of it. That's why, for example, Ford Motor Company was building tank plants in Germany, which is why Hitler's Wehrmacht had the tanks. It was from Ford. When American bombers bombed Ford's tank plants in Germany, Ford personally repaid Hitler so he could rebuild the tank plants faster. Boeing actually was shipping, has been documented, was shipping passenger airliners to South America, which were then sent to Africa, where they ripped the seats out and turned them into Hitler's bomber fleet. That was Boeing. These are American corporations.
Connecticut, did y'all hear about this? This 29-year-old daycare worker was caught touching a 4-year-old child at a daycare during nap time.
Bro,
I usually don't talk about stuff like this, but this really bothered me because it's like, what do you mean a 29-year-old was caught touching a 4-year-old during nap time? Putting his hand under the 4-year-old's blanket, covering both of their bodies, moving his hand for 47 minutes? How does this happen for 47 minutes and nobody noticed nothing? Why is he in a bed with a 4-year-old? Why is he laying down with a 4-year-old? This whole daycare need to be investigated immediately, because allegedly this is not the only child. According to the arrest report, burials touched the boy's private area during nap time for 47 minutes. 47 minutes. And nobody noticed. That's wild. That's real crazy. Look, I don't have kids, but this is one of the reasons why I don't want to have them. I'll be scared to have them because you can't genuinely trust daycares. This is happening too much now. I'm seeing it every day. I believe the family is suing, but man, that's not enough.
I keep asking myself the same question over and over again. Why do people continuously eat fast food all the time? And I mean, even for breakfast. You need to start coming up with some type of alternative, like make your own food at home. And why do I say that? Because a woman went to Starbucks to order a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. But what she got inside of the sandwich was not on the menu. If you haven't seen this video, take a look at this. Check this out.
Pull my sandwich out of the bag.
What is that?
I see this.
What is that?
Ew. Is that a... That's a nail. A nail. Sorry, a nail.
A nail. A nail.
Joking?
Was that in there to hold the sandwich together?
What the hell, Starbucks?
This is just incredibly unacceptable. Imagine if she was driving or wasn't paying attention and just went for the sandwich after having a sip of her coffee and bit into that, or in worst case scenario, swallowed that. Just unbelievable. And another reason to start making your own food at home. I understand many of you don't have a lot of time and you're on the go constantly. But meal prep, it really does help and it really does work to avoid situations and things like this. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. And as always, I'd love to hear from you.
Your eyes should be on Pfizer right now, but the news won't tell you that because they're in part funded by them. But I'm not, so I will. Just this past month, Pfizer and Valneva released the results from their phase 3 clinical trial for a Lyme disease vaccine. The next step is to pack up the data and turn it into the FDA for review, which takes less than a year. After they get the approval stamp from the FDA, they'll begin manufacturing sometime around late 2027. In the phase 3 results, Pfizer claims a 74% efficacy at preventing Lyme disease. But there's a catch. The trial included 9,400 people split into two groups, one being placebo. Pfizer hasn't released detailed numbers yet, but states fewer than anticipated Lyme disease cases were accrued over the study period. That's strange. A disease so rampant to require a vaccine, and there aren't enough observed cases to guarantee statistical significance. For context, they literally could have had 12 people in the vaccine group contract the disease and 45 in the placebo group, but still claim 74% efficacy. What a convenience that this is a record-breaking year for tick populations, with some areas estimated to have over 25% growth. And just when you thought I wasn't going to mention Bill Gates, get this. Valneva, the partner in the venture, has received over $60 million in funding from the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations. As it turns out, the Gates Foundation is a founding partner and remains a major funder of the coalition. And for clarity, yes, it is my personal opinion, based on pure speculation, that the rise in tick populations is manufactured. And if you think our government wouldn't allow that, I refer you to the Tuskegee Syphilis Study exhibit.
These are three of the most unusual saint relics you will ever hear about. First is the heart of St. John Vianney. St. John Vianney died in 1859, and since then his heart has not decayed. He is one of the holiest priests to ever exist, and he is known for long hours in the confessional. St. John Vianney is also the patron saint of parish priests, so it's fitting that his heart would be left undecayed. His heart is on display in the Shrine of Ars in France. Second is the brain of St. John Bosco. St. John Bosco was also one of the holiest priests to ever exist, and he is known for being a great mentor for young boys. In 2017, the relic of his brain was stolen, but found a couple weeks later in a fridge. Apparently, the thief mistook it for a golden nugget. It has since returned to the Basilica of St. John Bosco near Turin, Italy. Third is the tongue of St. Anthony of Padua. When the grave of St. Anthony was dug up, everything was dust except for his tongue. People recorded that his tongue was just as wet as a normal living person's tongue would be. Catholics believe that this is because he was known for the ability to preach the gospel. St. Anthony of Padua even once started preaching to fish because the men wouldn't listen to his message. The fish started jumping from the water as soon as he started speaking.
What? Fish jumping from the water? That's actually crazy.
This family annihilator came on TV and tricked everyone. Later, the police would discover that he killed 6 of his own children. In the mid-2000s, British tabloids were obsessed with this man named Mick Philpott. He had 15 kids with 5 different women. He lived with his wife and his girlfriend, and he refused to work. And he would go on media tours, talking about how this is his lifestyle. Instead of working, he publicly demanded more government benefits. But secretly, he was a very dark human being. He groomed teenage girls, had a violent past, and previously stabbed a partner 12 times. And he was walking free, nobody cared. In May of 2012, a fire broke out in his home in Derby. Philpott and his wife escaped, but 6 children under the age of 10 did not. The country mourned and people started donating to them. Now, you probably think you know where this is going, but I promise it is far, far worse. Philpott continued his media tour crying, "Please leave my family alone," acting like he had been targeted because of their lifestyle. Like, that's why the fire broke out. But something felt off. So police investigated, and they ended up discovering gasoline in his mailbox. In the morning that this was discovered, he actually had a custody hearing with his ex-girlfriend, who he now hated. Investigators bugged his hotel room, and they caught a confession from him. The fire was planned, and it was not to kill the children. Listen to how sick and twisted this is. He wanted to be the hero and rescue the children. He was planning on saying that his ex started the fire, get her arrested, and win full custody. But the problem is that the fire spread too fast. And while he was putting everyone's lives in jeopardy to feel like a big bad hero, 6 poor, young, innocent children died. All because of this plan that was supposed to boost his image. In 2013, Mick Philpott was sentenced to life in prison, and I hope he rots there forever. Also, hi, I'm Grace. Can I be your horror girlie?
That's wild.
1948, this woman discovered a code that can bend reality. She used it for 30 years and had an insanely high success rate. This is Helen Hadsell. She passed away in 2010, but she was accused of being maybe a scammer, or she had some type of illegal thing going on for how many times she would win prizes. She won over 1,000 different prizes, including a house, by entering contests in newspapers, magazines, etc. But this wasn't just luck. She had a system. She had a 4-letter formula called SPEC. Select it, project it, expect it, collect it. SPEC. Select it, project it, expect it, collect it. She wrote a book on it called The Name It and Claim It Game. Select it. Be crystal clear about what you want. She didn't enter contests randomly. She chose one she truly desired to win. Project it. See your success vividly in your mind. She would imagine hearing her name called, holding the prize in her hands, experiencing the emotions of winning. She would visualize that, projecting it. Expect it. Helen believed you had to expect your success, not hope for it, because hope means uncertain. And doubt blocks manifestation. Collect it. Helen always took action. She wrote the slogans, sent the entries, did the work. Her philosophy was the universe rewards actions, not daydreaming. In 1969, she manifested a house, entered a contest for it. Out of the tens of thousands of entries, hers was chosen. She visualized it every single day until it was her. Neuroscience confirms what Helen instinctively knew. Visualization rewires your brain. Positive thoughts build new neural pathways. Thoughts create things. Follow for more.
Let this be your gentle, honestly, let this be your completely opposite of gentle reminder that everything in the world is designed, specifically social media, is designed to keep you in a state of fear and anxiety. If you scroll your For You page, you'll probably see politics. You'll probably see things in the other parts of the world that are happening and the rumors of war and it's just constantly bombarding. Oh my gosh, gas prices. Oh my gosh, food prices. Like, what are we going to do? This is why Jesus says, do not worry about tomorrow, for today has enough worries of its own. Worry is something that will genuinely ruin your life, ruin your psyche, ruin your mental health, and ruin the quality of life for those around you. That's something that I struggled with so bad, just laying things at God's feet. And like when I start, especially after I had my daughter, everything became even more scary to me. Because I'm like, wow, I can't protect her from this world. I am but a mortal. So like putting my faith in God became even more crucial because I would literally almost have a panic attack when I would think about things, even things like racism. Like I would think about the things that I went through growing up in a predominantly white area and like the horrible, insane things that I witnessed and went through. And I'm like, wow, I am raising a dark-skinned, beautiful girl that other people may not see her as that and they might treat her the way that I was treated. And anyway, going on a tangent, so many things in my mom brain, I just couldn't sleep at night half the time. You know what though? When I really started to grasp, and I'm not perfect, I'm still working on it, but when I really started to grasp and I was able to, and this is why the Bible says we need to keep the word of God on our heart, because once I was able to calm my soul, calm my worries with reciting the word of God to myself and letting the Holy Spirit soothe me, that's when things changed for me. And it can change for you too. And if you have to stop doom scrolling, it's right in the name, doom scrolling, and you need to get a hold of yourself for a moment and go touch some grass, do that. Because once you come back from that, you're going to see, you'll be able to have your eyes wide open and see that everything is specifically put in a way for you to be fearful and anxious. And the more fearful and anxious that you are, the more you hate your neighbor instead of loving your neighbor and seeing that we need to have a heart like Christ and view people in the eyes, the way that God's eyes sees people. If you guys get what I'm saying, grammar, English, hello. We need to look at people the way that God sees them. And there's no way that you can do that with all of the worries of the world bombarding your psyche. Let this be your completely opposite of gentle reminder to stop freaking worrying. I know it's easier said than done, but repeat it to yourself. Get in your Bible, get in your word, armor up with the armor of God, and things will get easier because all roads lead back to Jesus at the end of the day. No matter how much you worry, like the Bible says, How many years do you add to your life by worrying? Like the great Roman philosopher Seneca says, people suffer more in their imagination than they ever do in reality. So don't let that be you. As always, make sure you like and follow. Comment down below what you think.
I'm going to start this off by saying it is very risky for me to cover this topic because it is still technically a rumor. So if you want to support me, please like, share, and follow. But right now, FBI Director Kash Patel is currently threatening to sue an American media outlet for reports that he is incompetent at his job. The Atlantic published an article called The FBI Director is MIA, which basically details various different stories that have been allegedly verified by multiple different sources within the government, that Kash Patel is essentially an alcoholic that's unable to do his job. The article details like an instance where he couldn't successfully log into his computer, and then he went into this freaked out rage saying that he was fired by the White House, but it turns out like he just didn't know what his password was. Couple that with the fact that the FBI has just been sucking lately, like the Savannah Guthrie mom still missing, the Charlie Kirk incident, people still have questions about that. Like there's just so many crimes that are getting unanswered for, especially like financial crimes when it comes to all this betting on the war. But what it ultimately comes down to is very embarrassing for him because ultimately he's a 40-something dating a 26-year-old, partying with the hockey team when he's supposed to have a very serious job of fighting crime in America. He's deeply unqualified. The only reason he got selected for this position is because he's a Trump glazer until it's shiny. And now he's threatening to sue because the Atlantic published this information. Now, mind you that any major publication that's going to put out big allegations against a government figure's character, they're going to have actual corroborated evidence, right? Like they have lawyers themselves. So they've already run the war games of if they got sued, how they prove exactly what they wrote being completely true. But Kash Patel is just threatening to sue them, trying to make it go away. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes one of two ways. Either this freak out of his incompetence is enough to tip him over the edge where he does get fired, or Trump, seeing how loyal and needy he is, just decides to look the other way and then uses his legal department to harass the Atlantic to stopping, which has been pretty effective in the past, the times he tried it. Ultimately, he's just like a frat, bro. Like he's not in a position to tackle crime in America. That's a very serious job. It needs a serious, boring person. I am not a serious or boring person, so you should please like, share, and follow. Making videos for you guys is my full-time job. Or you can also support me by listening to my music, my new single, Miss Your Body. It's on all platforms.
Yeah, he's acts like a child.
Talk about the creepy
for the position that he has,
because something isn't adding up. So there has been multiple scientists that just went completely missing, and all of these scientists worked on specific things like aerospace and nuclear related items or like stuff. And the people that work on these important stuff have either went missing or died in mysterious ways. And now recently, a woman named Amy, who was a scientist, has mysteriously passed away. And she was a researcher on working on experimental technology, even talking about things like anti-gravity. But before her death, she was saying some creepy stuff. She said her work was being sabotaged and that she was being threatened. And if she didn't go public in this stuff, something dark will happen to her. And then after commenting those stuff on the internet, she later died at 34. And the cause of death of her was self-inflicted. But here comes the scary part about this. Because she's not the only one that did this to herself. Because there's other people that did it that works in the same field as her. That A, either went missing, or B, they died. And these disappearances of these scientists are like so mainstream right now because like a lot of people are talking about it and they're like even in the news. So this made officials start to look into these cases. But officials say that there's no connections to none of these scientists that went missing. And that they're all just coincidence. They even asked the president about his opinion about the situation, and he said that it's just coincidence.
I don't know, coincidence, if you want it, whatever you want to call it.
But I don't know about that. I think there's something bigger going on.
10 people, all coincidences, and the same group of
people that rule the world want us to own nothing. That's why everything is a subscription now.
It's great that everything's a subscription now. Everything's just a rental. It's fantastic. I love that. Didn't have to do a whole lot to convince everybody to be okay with it. They just went, instead of charging you one time for Photoshop, we're going to charge you 3/4 of the price of Photoshop every month for the rest of your life until you die. And we all went, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Printers on subscription services now, because printing was already so fucking easy. May as well get an app involved. You get 15 pages of printing free until you hit a paywall, and now you you gotta pay a monthly fee to use a physical object already in your house on paper that you already purchased. There's some garage door openers that are on subscription services now. Now you have to rent the ability to open a door in a house that you own, or more likely in a house that you rent. You are renting the ability to open doors in the house that you rent. Even better. Did you guys know that medical software is on a subscription too? The software that doctors need to use the machines to do neurosurgery? Sometimes doctors will go into neurosurgery and go, oh shit, our subscription needs to be renewed. We need to get our account manager on the phone before we can do neurosurgery.
The way this person talks about it really puts it into perspective on how crazy it is. Stay weird.
That's insane. You rent everything, own nothing.
This just happened the other day. 20-year-old man walks into a high school ready to. Then watch what happens. Principal Kirkmore, 70-year-old man, tackles him immediately, disarms him immediately. Immediately. That's a hero. Guys, and in that moment, he even got hit on his leg. And it still didn't stop him. This man didn't run away from danger. He ran towards it to save the children that he loves. Putting yourself in harm's way so that other people can live. It immediately reminds me of this verse. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man laid down his life for his friends. In a world full of fear, this is what sacrificial love in action looks like.
Hero. That's the definition of a hero.
All right, so this is shocking. This guy was doing a slow motion recording in his house, and he didn't think anything of it. And then when he rewatched the video, this is why he uploaded it, it's capturing the flicker from the LED lights above him. Most people don't know LED lights flicker on average between 100 and 120 times per second. So he has this slowed way down, and what that does to your eyeballs, to your retinas, to your circadian rhythm, causes many things. You want to replace these with incandescents or with halogens, anything but LEDs or CFLs. It's not good lighting.
They're using ticks as bioweapons. This is Plum Island, where they're genetically modifying ticks and other animals to release them upon us as bioweapons. It's no surprise that Lyme, Connecticut is extremely close to Plum Island, okay? They're genetically modifying these diseases on this island and bringing them to the mainlands. Lyme disease and alpha-gal right now are one of the most prevalent tick-borne illnesses, and it's no surprise that Bill Gates is A, funding a lab-grown meat that does not affect alpha-gal, and B, he is funding research to create a vaccine for Lyme disease. So here he is again, creating the problem, creating the solution, and profiting on both ends.
Yup, the Klan is reforming in the US and authorities might be helping them. And many believe the body found hanging at the police station in DC is a warning that the next time Black Americans call 911, no one will answer. Residents were horrified after a video circulated of the tree at 9th and Quackenbow Street in Northwest DC, directly behind the 4th District Precinct, with the body staged on the most surveilled block in the neighborhood. And it's not just a life taken, it's a sign that they're not protecting us. Haunting reports show this is the 5th Black man found hanging from a tree across 5 states in just several months, with every case ruled as a self-unaliving within just hours by the same U.S. authorities. But it gets much darker as the Southern Poverty Law Center tracks active Klan cells across dozens of states with memberships in the thousands in each state. And researchers warning the movement is openly trying to gain support for the first time in decades. And this silence from every news institution is exactly the acceptance and support they were looking for.
Okay, a lot of you have heard about this, but we got to talk about something. For those who haven't heard, this boy is being electrocuted, had no idea that that was going to happen. The other boy runs right up to him to see what's going on, realizes what's happening, pulls him by the legs so he ungrounds him, saves his life. The first thing that I think is thank God. Well, look at the comment section. Why are we thanking God? The boy literally saved him. We should be thanking him. Yeah, I know this is going to aggravate a lot of you, but let me continue. God, thank you for saving. God is good. The disrespect. Thank God his friend was there. Yes, amen. Thank God. This boy's life was saved in a miraculous way, and God can't even get credit in this world anymore. As if he doesn't control everything already anyways, as if he doesn't control who gets to wake up every day, as if he doesn't control who needs to be with who, at what time, at what place. If you're in a life or death situation, then your mind immediately goes to God. Prays to God, thinks about God, life flashes before the eyes. And that's for a reason.
Israeli soldier took a sledgehammer to the face of Jesus Christ this morning in southern Lebanon. They've destroyed many religious sites, but this right here, the soldier tells his friend to record it and smashes the face after pulling it down from the cross. When it comes to Lebanon, the Israelis do some of the sickest things you can imagine. In the past 3 years, they have destroyed Christian and Muslim holy sites all throughout Lebanon, even bombing churches on Christmas Day in Lebanon. You know, I just have no words at this point. I mean, bringing down a statue of Jesus Christ, smashing his face with a sledgehammer, recording it, and then posting it somewhere where people saw it. It's deliberate, it's intentional.
That's
just
awful.
speechless.
That's really bad. That's super disrespectful. That's...
No, this isn't about NASA's recent endeavor. This is something far greater. Not too long ago, a 16-year-old boy stunned NASA and captured one of the clearest pictures of the moon we have. But he discovered something incredible. He noticed that the moon was already rusting. And scientists later confirmed that the moon is indeed rusting, driven by oxygen escaping from Earth's atmosphere. This iron oxide, or hematite, is formed on the lunar surface. Remember that word, hematite. Now, if you go to Acts 2, verse 20, it says, "The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and remarkable day of the Lord comes." Okay, so hold up. So the scientists say that the rusting on the moon is hematite. And in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, it tells us that the moon will turn into blood in the last days. And the New Testament was written in Greek. So if you look up what blood means in Greek, hematite. This name is derived from hema, meaning blood. So the moral of the story? Give your life to Jesus because he's coming back soon.
You all saw the video of the man who filmed himself burning down the warehouse he worked at while saying, "All you had to do was pay us enough to live," right? Well, I'm not condoning that behavior because this video would get removed, but I do want to give you some context. The CEO of Kimberly-Clark makes $15.3 million per year. Meanwhile, a warehouse worker at that specific warehouse in Ontario, California makes $18 per hour, which is about $37,000 per year. The workers at that warehouse had about $2,420 a month to live off of after taxes. The average rent in Ontario, California is $2,550. But it gets worse. The company Kimberly-Clark had a profit of over $2 billion last year. That means they could give every single one of their 38,000 employees a $40,000 a year raise on top of what they're already getting paid, and they would still make a profit of over $500 million. But if they did that, the shareholders might be upset. You know, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street.
Is everything this man is saying not adding up? His wife accidentally fell in the water and disappeared. He then tells authorities once he finally makes it to shore and they're like, "Hey, how long are you going to be in the Bahamas?" And he says, "I'm going to be in the Bahamas until I get my wife back." A day later, he's gone. Does he have his wife? No, she is still missing. His wife being 55-year-old Lynette Hooker, an experienced sailor. In fact, her and her husband Brian have been sailing and posting about it online. Claims that night were basically that everything went wrong. Also admitting that they had been drinking that night. He blamed the wind for knocking her into the water, her then having the key, him losing one of the paddles, basically blaming everything and everyone else as to why his wife is still missing.
And she had the spare dinghy key in her dry bag, which was with her. The wind blew us apart so fast that I think she tried to swim back to the sailboat, back to our sailboat. The cops got there like 4 a.m, but they didn't get searched at 4:30. We didn't get rolled out until 5. And by then, she had been in the water for 8 hours.
Key pieces of this whole thing and why I think he's inadvertently telling on himself is that she had the switch key on her. She falls into the water. He says she had the key on her, so I couldn't go after her. But instead of her swimming back to the dinghy that she had just fallen off of, he says she was swimming to their sailboat. So she fell in the water, but then decided to swim away from the person who could save her and get to their sailboat, having the engine's kill switch key on her. When Lynette's husband finally does make it to shore and talks to a security guard, the security guard, who is also a sailor, was like, "A lot of this does not add up." First off, he never would have lost sight of her because they were in water that you can literally see to the bottom of, and it wasn't dark enough to where it was like pitch black outside. She was a strong swimmer with sailing experience. If she had inadvertently ended up in the water because of the strong breeze like Brian is claiming, he should have still been able to at least get herself to safety. Then this man leaves the Bahamas while his wife is still missing. But then this woman shows up. Lynette's daughter Carly arrives, Brian has left, and she is telling us a completely different story. She is now sharing that Brian is not the loving husband he is portraying himself to be. And that not only was he violent towards her mother Lynette, he had actually threatened to throw her mother overboard before. It would make the most sense if they had gotten into some kind of altercation and he knocked her overboard, but she already knew that there was a chance something like this could happen, so she kept the keys to the boat and the dinghy on her, so that her husband couldn't leave her stranded after throwing her overboard. So far, they still have found no signs of Lynette, leaving everyone to wonder what actually happened that night and
Interesting story. He just snitched on himself. Literally.
Is it a
snitched on
coincidence that the same people funding lab-grown meat are the ones funding tick research? And now there's a tick called the Lone Star tick that's rapidly spreading across the US, and this tick causes a red meat allergy, so I'll let you decide.
So 10 government scientists have disappeared or been unalived. They all have ties to nuclear weapon programs and all kinds of secret government stuff, including UFOs. And now the government's saying that they're going to look into it and open an investigation on it. Can we point out that a lot of these people were retired or like switching careers and stuff when they disappeared or were unalived? I've seen a lot of theories where they're saying that it's other governments behind these disappearances. But hear me out. What if it's our government that's doing this? So some of these people were even like caught on videotape leaving their homes. One was caught leaving their home with a pew-pew and just never being seen again. Now, if you are a part of a very special program for your government, why would you not be able to turn to them for help if you think something's going on? Unless there's nothing you can do because the people that are coming for you are the people that are supposed to protect you, right? Now, this is just a theory, but I'd like to know y'all's thoughts on this one. And what exactly do you think is going on here?
A teenager in Canada was recently tubing down a river when he heard a high-pitched squeaking noise coming from the water. He reached his hand into the water, only to scoop up a tiny baby beaver who had been swept away from her mother's den and was struggling in the rapids. The exhausted beaver quickly fell asleep on Connor's chest, then stayed cuddled there the entire hour-long float to their finish point. Connor says he felt super protective of his tiny passenger immediately, and she'd occasionally open her eyes, look around, then burrow back into his arms like she was just asking him to keep her safe. When he and his family reached the shore, they marked the exact rescue location on a map, then drove an hour and a half out of their way to the North Island Wildlife Rescue Association. During the car ride, the beaver took turns snuggling with family members, completely trusting these humans who had become her temporary family. Wildlife experts confirmed that without the family's intervention, the week-old kit wouldn't have made it, as she was already dehydrated and far too young to fend for herself. Now named Little Timber, she's enrolled in what's basically baby beaver boarding school at the rescue, where she'll spend the next 18 months or so learning essential life skills like foraging and diving. The wildlife staff describe her as a busy beaver who's already nearly tripled her weight, and when she's ready, she'll be released back into the wild at the exact spot where Connor found her, and she'll be able to live out her life like she was always meant to. I'm Jen, and I post something positive every day.